Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast with me, your host, Ngali Bernard. As we discussed over the last few weeks, Cameroon is our point of attention going forward because of the elections that are ongoing there. And because the president is 91 years old, he is 42 years in power and is running to succeed himself. And the leading opposition candidature is hanging in the balance. Today, the Constitutional Council heard his petition against Elecam. Although the Constitutional Council heard many petitions against Elecam's decision, today we are focusing on Professor Maurice Kamto's argument and his case before the Constitutional Council because he is a leading opposition candidate. So let's go. Arguments against double investiture and the validity of Anissa Ekane to invest the candidate for Manidem was argued by Barrister Nwana. Barrister Nwana represented Mr. Anissa Ekane and Manidem party and also Professor Maurice Kamto, because here we have the party, we have the leader of the party, and we have the candidate himself. Barrister Nwana argued that calling it a double investiture is a misnomer, as it falsely implies a single entity invested two candidates. He asserts that only one legitimate investiture exists and any other claim is an imposture. As a way of backup, Elecam rejected the candidature of Professor Maurice Kamto and Mr. Yebga Diodone because both of them were invested by the Manidem party, and one party cannot invest two candidates. It must be one candidate for one party, as provided for in the Electoral Code. So Mr. Nwana argued for the exclusion of Mr. Yebga Diodone's candidature. In arguing this, Ms. Barrister Nwana presents evidence that Mr. Yebga Diodone was dismissed from Manidem by resolution number 4 of a party congress that was held on June 2, 2018. This exclusion was officially communicated to the Ministry of Territorial Administration on June 6, 2018. Crucially, Mr. Yebga Diodone never contested this exclusion through legal means within the stipulated 3-month period, thus effectively agreeing and accepting to the decision. On the legitimacy of Mr. Anissa Ekane's mandate, Mr. Nwana argued that MINAT, that is the Ministry of Territorial Administration, otherwise known as the Ministry of Interior, officially endorsed the new Executive Bureau of Manidem on August 2nd, 2018, which is represented by Mr. Anissa Ekane. Mr. Anissa Ekane has consistently invested all Manidem candidates in legislative and municipal elections since 2020. He is the sole individual who receives political subsidies due to Manidem without interruption, a fact highlighted as a key indicator of legitimate leadership. So the government of Cameroon gives financial subsidies to political parties, and these subsidies are given to the head of the party. And the Minister of Territorial Administration, that is the Minister of Interior, has been giving this money to Mr. Anissa Ekane. So there is little doubt, or there is no doubt, that Mr. Anissa Ekane is the actual leader of the Manidem political party, according to Barrister Nwana. Still, according to Barrister Nwana, Elecam, that is Elections Cameroon, the elections management body in Cameroon, corresponds with Mr. Anissa Ekane, not Mr. Yebga, as confirmed by correspondence dated April 24, 2025. That is a few months ago. Elecam was in constant communication with Mr. Anissa Ekane and not with Mr. Yebga. So Barrister Nwana is wondering how Elecam could recognize or even give some credibility to Mr. Yebga's claim to the leadership of the party. On accusations against Mr. Yebga and Minat, Barrister Nwana labels Mr. Yebga as an impostor who is seeking to bring disorder to the Republic. He alleges manipulations on the Minat website to create a false appearance of legitimacy for Mr. Yebga's claims. A purported Secretary General of Mr. Yebga's faction has publicly stated he is no longer in that role and confirmed Mr. Yebga's exclusion. Documents presented by Mr. Yebga are dated to 2017, prior to the new party congress in 2018, rendering them outdated and irrelevant compared to more recent documents from the 2018-2025 period. Barrister Nwana suggests a suspicion of collusion between Mr. Yebga and the Minister of Territorial Administration aimed at paralyzing the legitimate candidates. He questions why the Ministry of Territorial Administration and the Ministry of Justice are not taking action against fraudsters and falsifiers. Because the Minister of Territorial Administration had acknowledged that the website of his ministry was hacked, but investigations opened. Mr. Yebga has claimed in some audios circulating online that he was responsible for the manipulation of the website. Barrister Nwana urges the Constitutional Council to conduct thorough investigations to ascertain the true legitimate representatives of Manidem, specifically requesting verification of who receives political party subsidies, stating this fact alone could resolve the dispute. He once again expeditious justice that could lead to social implosion. He emphasizes the Council's power to say no to imposters and to ensure that only individuals with proper legal authorization represent political parties. So to give some clarity here, according to the law organizing political parties in Cameroon and the Electoral Code, the Ministry of Territorial Administration is in direct correspondence as the government representative with political parties. And this correspondence and relationship is built by the ministry represented by the minister and the political parties represented by the leadership. And the leadership of the party is enshrined by the statutes of the constitution of the party. The other argument that he makes here is that the Constitutional Council should not treat this case as an expeditious matter, meaning it should not be treated as a matter of urgency, because the truth could be found in further investigation in learning who is the actual representative of the political party. I understand why Barrister Nwana is bringing this argument here, because in electoral matters, time is always of the essence. The adjudication bodies have very strict timelines under which they work. If the Constitutional Council has to go in to investigate in these matters, it will have to do so expeditiously, very fast, urgently, and come out with actual representation. And this needs to go beyond reading only the documents that were presented to them during the argument. So the question now comes down to Constitutional Council. How far are they willing to go to establish who is the rightful, legitimate representative or leader of the party with the power to sign the investiture letter telling the government or telling the electoral management body that this person is our flag bearer? On this score, it is clear on every written document and recent history that the leader of the party is Anissa Ekane. Because as it's argued here, since 2018, when Mr. Yebga was dismissed from the Manidem party, he did not return. He did not argue against that dismissal in any court of law. And the period within which he could argue that case is already over, meaning the case cannot be adjudicated again. But with the Constitutional Council in this case insists that they do not have the power to go into and look at how political parties manage their affairs. This could take us back to the case of Leon Tele Onana, who presented himself as the representative of the CPDM because he argues that the current candidate for the CPDM, that is President Paul Biya, is not the rightful candidate. He outran his mandate and the mandate has not been renewed. But Elecam argued that they went in and verified the organization of the political party and saw that President Paul Biya is the leader of that party. Curiously, Elecam did not go in to verify to see who is the legitimate leader of Manidem. As we repeated the words of the Bishop of Bafusam in our commentary yesterday, justice must not only be seen, it must be seen to be done. So in addition to Barrister Nwana's arguments, we also had Meto Sikati arguing against the joinder of the procedures because Mr. Yebga Diodone wanted his case to be joined and heard together by the Constitutional Council with the case of Maurice Kamto. But the council found for Maurice Kamto and decided not to join the cases. Then turning on to Professor Maurice Kamto, he addressed the Constitutional Council and he made his case in a passionate manner, just as he did in the 2018 post-electoral arguments. Remember, the Constitutional Council has become a place of public concern, public interest, because Professor Maurice Kamto and his party go there very often to challenge the constitutionality to challenge the regularity of electoral matters, both pre, during, and post-electoral cases. Again, we're going to have a detailed conversation or a detailed commentary on Professor Maurice Kamto's journey towards the 2025 presidential elections. At the end of this, we'll combine them and have a very good analysis of what he has been arguing about. We'll look at the law, look at his arguments, look at the decisions of the Constitutional Council, and make our own analysis out of them. So in his intervention, Professor Maurice Kamto aimed to simplify the Constitutional Council's task by focusing on the legal compliance of his candidacy. He stated that when a Cameroonian citizen applies for candidacy in an election, they must verify if their political party meets the legal requirements, specifically if it is legalized and if the competent bodies within the party are authorized to confer investiture. He affirmed that Manidem is a legally recognized political party, having been legalized on March 9, 1995, and that the body investing him, that is the political party, was competent according to the party's text. Professor Maurice Kamto also asserted that his team provided all the legal documents under Articles 117 and 122 of the Electoral Code, and that not a single document was missing. He highlighted that the only argument presented against his candidacy was a plurality of investiture, which he refuted. He conclusively stated that the individual claiming a second candidacy, that is Mr. Yebga, has ceased to be a member of Manidem since 2018, rendering his purported candidacy a non-candidature in the eyes of the law. He also urged the Constitutional Council to simplify its judgment by focusing on whether he, Mr. Kamto, had provided all legally required documents. If so, there is no plurality of candidature. Professor Maurice Kamto expressed concern that the debate might be merely a deco for show and that the Constitutional Council's decision was already set in stone, regardless of the pleadings and the arguments made before the Council. He stressed that the purpose of the plea was to enlighten the councils, he stressed that the purpose of the pleas was to enlighten the council for the best decision whatsoever. He concluded by asking the council to rule that Elecam wrongly rejected his candidacy because he met all requirements of the Electoral Code, thereby rendering justice. The substance of his argument was that Elecam was wrong to think or to opine that Manidem had two candidatures because only one candidature can come out of a political party. One party cannot invest two people. If one party invested two people, it should be the same person investing two people because the party has only one leader. And if another person invests another candidate, that person is not the rightful leader. Therefore, that is not an authentic representation or investiture by the party. And that is the argument that the Constitutional Council heard from Maurice Kamto. And the council decided to adjourn the case for tomorrow, August 5th at 3 p.m. for a decision. Most other decisions were rendered on the spot, especially rejections. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us now, you're watching the Beyond Africa podcast with me, Ngalim Bernard. And at this point, I'm rounding up and I implore you all to subscribe, like, and share so that you give us the energy to continue bringing to you all these legal and political issues around the elections in Cameroon. Remember, the bishops said justice comes after peace, and justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. Ciao. See you next time.